Now, back home now, and as we spoke about at the start of the program, Albanese government today announced an inquiry into the COVID pandemic response, not a royal commission, and the inquiry won't include the states. Let's bring in now the Shadow Minister for the NDIS, Housing and Social Services, Michael Sukkar. Great to see you in Sydney, Michael.
Love to be with you. Thanks, Sharri.
What's your response to this? Is this a broken promise? Can an inquiry possibly examine our handling of the pandemic without including the states?
Well, it's a complete disgrace. I mean, here we've got a clear example of the Prime Minister putting the interests of the Labor Party ahead of Australian people. He's running protection for Labor premiers, premiers who made a host of shocking decisions during the pandemic, a number of decisions, even if you agree with, we should all agree should be examined, decisions that had a huge impact on the lives of citizens and had an enduring impact on the mental health and indeed the health of millions of Australians. So to shield them from this inquiry means it's not really an inquiry, it's certainly not a Royal Commission. It's what you do when you're trying to tick a box on an election commitment, when you don't want to put any noses out of joint in the Labor Party. And again, he just put the Labor Party ahead of Australian people, which he does time and time again.
Do you think the coalition will participate in this inquiry if it doesn't include the states?
Well, look, I'm not sure. I think there's certainly an argument to say that you wouldn't want to lend credibility to some sort of process that is wholly inadequate. Equally, there's a good argument to say, well, you know, we should be trying to get to the bottom of a number of issues however we possibly can, and that would be in favour of participating. So, look, in the end, that'll be a call for our leader and relevant shadow ministers. But look, I mean, in the end, Anthony Albanese is trying to keep Labor premiers happy, and he's happy to put the Australian people second, and I think that is a disgrace.
Now, on this new Airbnb tax that's been announced by Premier Daniel Andrews, he calls it modest, 7.5%. In fact, it's the highest in the world. Your Shadow Minister for Housing, is this one way to alleviate the housing crisis? Does this work?
It's a terrible decision. It's the 50th new tax that Daniel Andrews and the state Labor government have imposed on Victorians. 50 new or increased taxes when he said he wouldn't impose any new taxes at all. I think most Australians understand this, Sharri. If you want less of something, you tax it more. If you want less investment in housing, you want less availability of rental stock, you tax it more. If you want people to stop smoking, you tax it more. What we see from Labor is a succession of new taxes. Their solution to every problem in the world is whack another tax on it. Here we've got, again, a massive tax increase on top of land tax increases, on top of the increases in stamp duty that we've seen with the thresholds for stamp duty remaining stagnant while house prices continue to grow. And we wonder why Australia is in a housing crisis, because these Labor taxes piling one on top of another mean, for example, in my home state of Victoria, nearly 40% of the cost of a new home is taxes or regulatory imposts. Here in New South Wales, it's more than 40%, nearly 44% are taxes and regulatory imposts. So this is clearly just another blunt instrument from the Labor Party to raise money so they can waste more money on things like the Commonwealth Games. Let's be frank, that's what it's all about. Find an excuse to raise some more money so Daniel Andrews can find some more weird ways to waste our money.
Now, former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg today revealed that he's not going to be returning to politics, at least at the next election. He's been appointed the chairman of Goldman Sachs locally. A huge congratulations to him for this role. What's your reaction? Did you want him to return to the coalition to run again in Kooyong at the next election?
Look, I absolutely wanted him to return. I was the assistant treasurer when he was treasurer during COVID, and I can tell you nobody worked harder for this country. Josh has got an incredible mind, but he's also got a big heart for Australians, and he deserves a huge amount of credit for making sure Australia came out of COVID-19 with one of the strongest economies in the world. I saw him literally working 18, 20 hours a day. He gave everything for this country. So I'm torn. On one hand, I'm happy for Josh. I'm sad at a personal level because I would have loved him to have been back. But look, you never say never in politics, and I just wish Josh and Amy and his beautiful family all the best.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's enjoying spending time with his family. He's still young, he's only 52, so it's not ruling out a return to politics. It's just not at this point in time, which I think is probably wise, given I think Albanese will probably win the next election.
Well, I strongly disagree with you on that, Sharri, but we're entitled to disagree.
We'll see. All right, Michael Sukkar, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Sharri.